Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Property Meetup. This is our fifth meetup, and I'm very excited to say that for the second time we've had over 100 tickets sold, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much, everybody, for that. I'm gonna invite a few special prizes, which I'll introduce in a couple minutes as well, as a little thank you for having quite so many people. Our aim here is in the world of online and remote meetings, whilst we're all in lockdown, is to provide as much real life value in the property investing world as we possibly can. There are lots of incredible people doing fantastic deals, investments, changing their lives, helping others to change each other's lives. And if we can bring a little bit of that to all of you out there, then we feel that's really worthwhile. My aim with the Property Meetup is to find real investors doing real projects that will absolutely blow your mind with how good they are. I come across projects all day, every day that people are doing, and generally in the property community, everybody is very happy to share. They are very happy to show off what they're doing and show off all the problems that they've had, so that in the hope that maybe people don't suffer from the same fate as them. Our main speaker for this evening is Paul Million. You may know him from the Property Thing. He does all sorts of different property strategies, morning, noon and night. I don't think the man sleeps. We have a few little bite-sized bonuses for you before we get to Paul. I'm worried that once he starts speaking, he won't stop. I do have the mute button at hand just in case, so I'll attempt to keep Paul on the straight and narrow. So in addition to learning lots from Paul, and I will for once make no apologies whatsoever for overrunning, because I know how much value Paul has to give, and I will give him considerable leeway to run on. Please stick with us as long as you can. Before we get to Paul, I've got a few little treats for you. The first, I would like to introduce, some of you will have heard from and spoken to her before, Karen Murray, my favorite podcaster and my favorite business coach. Karen, if you would like to say hello. Sorry, my computer's
hello
with new ticket sales, which is fantastic.
Oh,
Karen,
wow. Hello.
Say hello and tell us all about the podcast I listened to just earlier today.
Well, yes. So many of you know that I coach solopreneurs, people who are expert in something, who they're trying to run a business in that, but they're not so expert in running the actual business. So if clients would just come through the door, or investors or properties, they'd be completely happy. But there's this other thing that they've got to do, which is the kind of running the business part that they're usually less comfortable with. And so I started the Smart Business podcast as a way of giving some help to solopreneurs who are in that position where they're experts, but not necessarily at running a business. So one of my clients a few years ago sort of sparked the idea for today's episode, because we were chatting and I said to her, you're just too much in the weeds of your business. And I need you to kind of lift out the weeds and start working on your business instead of in your business. And she's lovely and very straight talking. And she said to me, excuse the parlance, Karen, I would do that gladly if I knew what the fuck you're talking about. So I was like, oh, okay. I don't say that on the podcast. I keep it clean language, because some of you might have littlies. In fact, I didn't ask if any of you had littlies around this evening before I said that. But on the podcast, I don't swear at all, because then you don't have to have earphones in. But this whole idea about working on your business instead of in it, you know, we hear it and we think, oh yeah, I know what that means. And then we actually go to do it and we don't really know what it means at all. And so today, in today's episode, I just unlock that a little bit and give you some ways of thinking about how to look at your roles in the business and think more about how you can apply those roles in order to work on your business effectively. So that's what today's episode's all about. And actually, Rob got a sneak preview.
The name of the podcast, Karen?
The Smart Business Podcast. It would have been smart if I'd told you.
I would really recommend you listen to that. I've had a sneak preview of the episode that just launched today, and I happen to get an honorary mention. So I haven't arranged this with Karen beforehand, but seeing as we have so many people on, I thought the first person, I recommend you should all listen to that podcast. The first person who can email me with the minute and second that my name is mentioned at, rob@kingproperty.co.uk. I'm sure Karen and I can arrange for a special little bonus.
Oh, I can do that.
That will help you kickstart your business, grow from where you are, scale or launch or whatever it is. Between Karen and I, I'm sure we'll find a way to do our best to help you. So if you listen to the Smart Business Podcast, the episode that was launched today, I think was episode 10. Is that right?
It was episode 10. Do you want me to post links to it in the chat?
Post links to it in the chat. If you happen to notice when my name was mentioned, and email me at rob@kingproperty.co.uk, we'll arrange a special little bonus for that. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay. I was hoping we might get a quick little update from Guy Lehman, my mortgage broker, because things are changing in the mortgage market every minute. Guy, are you with us? I think he did say he might be delayed. Okay, so we'll move swiftly on. As you know, there's lots going on at the moment in the world and in the way that the government is managing our lockdown. There are lots of different schemes that are being announced every day with lots of changes and lots of specific requirements. I thought it would be useful if we just heard from Daniel Fitzhenry. Daniel, I think you're on with us, who in many of his different guises. Do you want to just briefly tell us the many hats you wear, Dan, and then share with us what you think is the most important update for us to be thinking about in terms of government help and support for business owners right now?
Thank you, Rob. Evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. If I was wearing a hat, you would see my hair coming out the side of it where it's growing so long and curly. So excuse if I look like I've just been electrocuted. I just can't comb it down anymore. It's growing very long.
Age is coming to us all, then.
Lockdown hair.
Yeah, receding as well. So there we go. So yes, thank you, Rob. I'm Dan Fitzhenry. So I sort of have two hats. I'm involved in local government in Southampton, where Rob is based. And then from a business point of view, I run a business that supports other companies to grow to their full potential. So I just wanted to give you a tiny little update this evening on financial support and then wider business support that you as entrepreneurs, business owners, property investors can access. There has been a lot, and this is mainly focused at sort of limited companies rather than the broad breadth of everything. So if we look specifically at loans, as of today, the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme, CBILS, had lent out about 7.25 billion, which is loans from 50,000 to 250,000 unsecured, and then up to 5 million. But the business bounce back loans have handed out today, as of today, 14.2 billion, nearly double the amount. And on the business bounce back loans, which some of you may be able to access, obviously there's a 100% guarantee from the government, so a much easier process and a much quicker funding network. The one area that I think certainly people on the call should, in the property sector, specifically in service apartments or bed and breakfasts, should keep an eye out now imminently in the next couple of days is the grants. So the government gave councils grants to allocate to two sectors. Those who were in receipt of small business rate relief could get up to a £10,000 grant regardless of the sector that they were in. And then those businesses who were in hospitality, retail, leisure, or children's nursery could get up to £25,000 grant if their business rates were £15,001 to £51,000. That's what's been going for several weeks. The key bit for property investors right now is that the government has given them further discretionary grants to local councils to be able to give grants out to bed and breakfasts, including those bed and breakfasts that are paying council tax rather than business rates, i.e. potentially service department operators, and a wider range of smaller businesses. So councils have got discretion on how they allocate that money. So if you're an operator, wherever you are in England, it may well be worthwhile you contacting your council in the next couple of days to see whether, if you're a service department operator, if you haven't already, you can access that fund, because the councils will be deciding it accordingly. And so there's a lot of support out there, and there's a bit more that's come this week. It's also on the wider piece around business support. The Federation of Small Businesses, the Chamber of Commerce, the local enterprise partnerships, and the Institute of Directors have been doing an awful lot of support for small businesses in the background. And I think the key message, Rob, that I would say to people is, this is not the time to be on your own. This is time to build a team, find people to work with, find people like this evening to support you. You cannot thrive when you're trying to survive. You need to create an environment, firstly in your own mind, where you can achieve, and then in the environment of the people around you. Regardless of what anyone says, and I'll stop after this, the UK economy was 2.83 trillion before coronavirus. Roughly speaking, 50 to 60 billion of sales a week going through the economy. A contraction of some form is happening. There will still be trillions of pounds in the British economy and opportunity for everybody. With the right team and the right people around you, it's there for taking, albeit it is going to be a difficult process in some areas. So get some people that can help you, whoever they are, and keep a good environment to work in. Thank you, Rob.
Great, thank you, Dan. So I think most of us are aware of some of those original things that Dan mentioned, the C-bill, reasonably recently, the bounce back loans. The key point, the key new point there is local government now has some discretion, I think, to spend some additional grant monies. Is that right, Dan?
Correct.
So if you're in the appropriate sectors, grant means free. That's not a loan. Not a bounce back is a loan, very cheap, as in free for a year, but loan means you have to pay it back. Whereas the money that's just being released now to the local government is grant money. So if you're eligible, absolutely be talking about that. Alongside his local government work, Dan runs a business helping businesses specifically with this sort of thing. So if you want some help navigating that, talk to Dan about that. Thank you very much, Dan. Just before we move on, I'm very excited that we had over 100 tickets sold. In fact, we topped out at over 125, maybe even 130 now, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much to that. As I promised earlier today, in recognition of that and to say thank you, as we go through today's talk, Emma, who works with me, is going to randomly pick out 3 names from the people who are on the call today. And we'll offer you the opportunity for a free 30-minute one-to-one call with me at some point that we'll arrange through this week or next week. Don't feel obliged to take it. If you don't want it, please don't. Let me offer it out to somebody else. But we will come back to you before the end of the episode and announce the winners of those 3 30-minute calls. Great. Okay. So I won't keep you any longer from the main event for this evening. Paul Million and I have known each other for, I don't know, a year or so now, maybe a little bit longer than that. Paul first came to me with his insatiable desire to learn new things, despite being the one person I think I know in property who seems to have experience in every single sector. He just couldn't quite get enough of another strategy, and so we met when he was learning about commercial to residential conversions, though I don't think there's a strategy he doesn't know about. He's an absolute phenomenon, a whirlwind who is non-stop. I think I'm going to struggle to take the conch back once I let him speak. He probably is agonizing at the length of my introduction, so I won't say anything else. Paul, welcome. Thank you very much. If you'd like to say hello, I do have some sort of guiding questions to try and keep us on track.
I'm glad Mary Poppins got the first F-bomb in anyway. Free reign from here on in, Karen. Thank you very much for that.
It's not my normal style.
Oh, I know. Right, has everyone had a wee? We're in for a long one. Go and get yourself a glass of water.
Going your age.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Well,
if you want to just, at any point, if you want to snooze, just hand the hosting over to me. And the thing is, I want to give everyone value. So, I'm so humbled that so many people have turned out tonight. I'm feeling a bit choky actually. But because of that, because so many people have turned up, I want to give you absolute value. So if there's anything that I miss at all, I can't. I'm not very well hand-eye coordinated to keep an eye on the chat and various other stuff as far as questions are concerned. So Rob will be keeping an eye on that. But get your questions in. The last webinar I did was for an hour, and that lasted 3 hours and 20. And quite a high proportion of the people stayed on, but I'm not allowed to do that tonight. That's not going to last
that long.
Okay. People will be reaching for their sheepies. Right, okay, so I'm going to get straight onto my slides. Now, do you want to see first, Rob, do you want to see a couple of walkarounds around my a small singlet I've just finished in the nature mode that I've done?
I think those are great. I think before we get into that, so give it, and I hesitate to say this, give us a brief overview of everything you do. Let's keep it short. Let's not dive into the detail just yet. Plenty of opportunity for that.
Well,
so,
I mean, we've
got 30 seconds in an elevator. What's your pitch? Just so the audience gets a broad range of everything you do in and around property at the moment.
Well, you're going to see me stretched out in an exploded view when I get all my slides out in a bit anyway. But yeah, to give you a brief overview, started in property at 21 years old. In 1992 when I was in Her Majesty's Royal Navy, and decided that because my mum was an estate agent and she was trying to get me into my first house, so I'll get a house. And then I thought I quite like that actually. There was a bit of a deficit in having to pay tax where I thought, 300 quid a month getting taken off me as a young petty officer in the Navy. I'll have to make that up somehow. Bought another house, and then by the time I left the Navy, had 4. And so it just went from there really. The whole point of tonight, for me, to say to you lot, is that I'm just a totally normal bloke, and with a constitution of a swamp crocodile for graft. So it is. I literally the reason why I do the property thing with my co-host Anthony Boyce, get that mentioned in early. Is because when I was a young landlord starting off, sitting next to landlords at property meetings with 60 odd houses, I used to think, well, hold on, if you can do it, then I can do it. Why can't I do it? You've got 60 houses, I want to get 60 houses. The only thing standing between me and getting 60 houses is going out and buying them. And how do you buy 60 houses? One at a time, beg, borrowing and stealing, whatever way you possibly can. And that is what I set out to do. So, and I've leveraged all sorts of, I've done a post. There's lots of posts actually. I mean, it's worth mentioning now. If you search my name on the likes of a little bit on Progressive, but more on my own group, the Property Thing group, and Blue Oak, you'll see some posts that I've done, and I'm renowned for gobbing off for ages as per. And one of my posts is I've remortgaged my granny. I'll take money from anywhere. I borrowed money off anyone that would lend me it. Basically, I borrowed houses off people. I borrowed money off people in order to buy their houses off them, so I could take the front down, rebuild it back up straight, and remortgage the money back out. So I've done all sorts of creative strategies before I even knew what they were called. And EDC to me over the years has been, can I borrow your house and we'll sort something out through the solicitors where I can, take the extension off and build it back on and then pay you later. So I've been all about these purchase lease options and creative ways of doing things. And it's actually really only the last, embarrassingly, it's only really over the last few years that I've known the names for all this. I mean, because of the people that come to the property thing, the young guys and gals that rock up to that, and we just have a good laugh when we're doing that, you know. They know so much, you know, they're educated. These kids that have been on all these courses and what have you can run rings around me as far as terminology is concerned. You know, I've got to try and keep up with them. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. Where's that bit? Oh yeah, share screen. Why have I got 2 Microsoft PowerPoints? And I'll try that one first.
It's coming.
Right, we're in. So that's me. Can you all see that? Can you see that?
Slides, Paul. We can just see like the header for the presentation.
All right. Okay. I'll just stop that share.
Try the other one. All right, it's on its way. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So click into presentation mode. We'll probably do. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Yeah. Mac's been a bit slow the last couple of days.
Okay. Perfect.
Right. So that's me. Okay. So joined the Navy in 1990. By 1992, age 21, had my first buy-to-let property. By the time I got my fourth, my mum was an estate agent. Now you'd think that would have been absolutely great, but she was very much by the book. Wouldn't allow me to, wouldn't offer me any deals and what have you. So I went leapfrogged her a little bit and went to her colleagues and was getting some nice, decent deals out of her colleagues and what have you. So 1992, first buy-to-let. By 1997, every time I got promoted, I basically bought another property. So by the time 1997 came, there was I wanted to travel around the world. I was putting in drafting preferences for going around the world. The Royal Navy weren't sending me, which was quite annoying. And because I was a technician, I couldn't do swap drafts. So I basically decided to take redundancy, and they paid me £17,000 to leave, which back in the 90s, that's probably equivalent of about 35 grand now. Bought another property when I left. I promised myself I would go around the world and smoke all the best stuff and go to all the best countries and do all brilliant things, but I ended up buying another property and thinking, well, with all of this fantastic rent, I can definitely go traveling around the world. And then I ended up getting embroiled in my dad's company. I actually wanted to leave and go straight into property management. I actually did a business plan through the excuse me, Royal British Legion, and to go straight into property management. But my dad persuaded me that this business that he had in embroidery, sports and leisure wear, screen printing, that type of thing, he just had one employee, but it was an existing business and he had a decent customer base, and I joined in with that, and that actually allowed me to borrow more money to buy more properties. Had I gone into property management, I might have just ended up managing other people's properties. I don't regret anything that I've done. Sometimes I think I could have taken a different path, but I didn't. I took that path. After I get like a 7-year itch. I was in the Navy for 7 years, and then I was with my dad for 7 years. All the while that I was working with my dad, I was just dying for the night and the weekend, so I could get onto various properties that I was just smashing up. That was my actual passion, and really the only reason why I ran that business is so I could effectively borrow a decent amount of money in order to put more properties together. But then, of course, the properties just kind of took over, and I was trying to run a business at the same time as I was on my phone all day arranging site visits and builders and surveys and valuations and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, cracked on. By about 2004, it would be, I'd have left my dad's company. By that time, I'd been around quite a lot of banks, shy Bairns getting out, asking for, well, I wanted to buy 50 properties. And so I went around a lot of banks as a young fella, probably, 28 years old by that point, asking for enough money to go and buy 50 houses off for them to back me so I could remortgage my existing properties. Now, I didn't realise, but I'd come through a recession in the early 90s. But at the time, what's an interest rate? What's a repayment? At the end of the day, I rented houses for about £350 a month, and the mortgages were about £200 a month. I just happily cracked on. Now, by the time 2003 came around, I was buying quite a few houses. HSBC had decided to back me, and quite surprisingly turned around and offered me £500,000 based on the fact that my initial 5 or 6 houses had come up quite nicely in value. And then for my business, I'd expanded that business up to about 16 people working for me and turning over a decent amount of money. And we needed some bigger industrial premises, so I bought 3 older industrial units. They just happened to have a little bit of land around them. So by 2003 to 2005, I bought another 25 buy-to-lets by just remortgaging. Prices coming up, 85% loan to value, mortgages, less than 1% above base. I'd gone back to the HSBC saying, hello, you're charging me 3% above base, 2.5% above base here. I'd like you to charge me, 1.5% above base, like some of these buy-to-let mortgages. And he said, well, to get that kind of borrowing, you'd have to borrow about £3 million. So I was like, oh, where do I sign? And he's like, no, right, anyway. So he wouldn't lend me the money, so I ended up remortgaging with a lot of buy-to-let lenders. So, that's it really. By 2014, I built, so 2007, 2008 came around. I'd already got about 45, 50 houses by that point. I thought I wanted to build some industrial units. So I borrowed a piece of land off someone, but basically it was my uncle that owned the land around my units. So I borrowed the money off him to buy them off him, and basically had it as a personal loan. It was like I suppose a completion with delayed consideration of sorts. I took that to the bank at 80 grand. I got planning permission on it, took it to the bank. It was valued at 220 grand then, and they said they'd lend me £500,000 to build some industrial units, which as we just entered into a recession, and my business partner Adam approached me saying, hey, let's do some property stuff. I've got some money to spend. I was like, well, that worked out really well. So we ended up building those units together. And then after that, we basically put another 22 property portfolio together of supported tenancies. By this point, I'd already got a couple of decent sized HMOs. One second. Right, so in property. So at the moment, I've got, since that time, we've built up a few more properties. So we've got, between us, I've got about 75 properties. So I have about 60 properties, and then I've got 20 odd in partnership with Adam. So what I've got in partnership with Adam constitutes about a quarter of my portfolio. So between us, we've got 135 tenancies consisting of, some industrial units, 80 HMO rooms, and the rest are single lets. Now, in property, I always liken it to 3 types of money. Now, I'm not a flipper. I've only ever sold about 4 or 5 properties, maybe 5 or 6 properties actually in my time. I don't see the point of getting rid of them. I'm in them. I'm in it for the long term. I have bought some not brilliant properties in my time. Some of them, I say they grow out like a bad haircut. Hello. 3 types of money in property. Okay, the hard money, easy money, and the free money. The hard money comes from purposing the buildings, the blood, sweat, tears, toil, and graft. Okay, that's the hard bit. The easy bit, which is a great feeling at the end of the project, is collecting the rent. Right, what I call the golden eggs. Okay.
What's Mummy done to you?
Royston, turn your bloody microphone off. And then you've got your free money, your capital appreciation. Okay, wouldn't that be nice? We haven't had any capital appreciation since about 2007, have we? Well, 2006, 2007. So, previous to that, actually. Right. Now, I've been banging on lately about this. 1 second. Yeah, I've been banging on lately quite a lot on social media. I mean, to be fair, I'm not massive on social media. I don't do tons of it. I'm told I should do more of it. Some people tell me I should do less of it, but I've got a business to run. I work from 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes till, 8 o'clock at night. Sometimes I have a little snooze on me camping mat in my office. I'm a bit of a workaholic, right? Now, that's something that I'm definitely working on at the moment, my work-life balance. But the reason why I'm in this you know, this property addiction is because of the fact that I love it. I love my work. I know that at any moment I can sort of, I was on the tools, by the way, for 25 years with my portfolio. And that taught me a lot. Sometimes I feel as if I could have done a lot more. I could have done a lot more had I leveraged my skills earlier. I say no regrets, but I really wish, earlier in my career, I'd known, they say, if I'd known then what I know now, I could have done a lot more. And one of my challenges to myself is to do as much in the next 6 years as I've done in the previous 28 years. Okay. Now, I've been banging on quite a lot lately about this book called The Midas Method. Had it not been for The Midas Method, I don't think that I would have had what I've got. All right. And I don't think that I would have had the confidence, because I think a lot of it is about confidence. I think so many people get completely stuck in a rut with this confidence thing of knowing when to take a jump, knowing how to take a jump, and how far to jump, as it were. A lot of people get completely entwined in the property training scenario, thinking that they've got to do course after course after course after course. How I got started, I mean, my mum did push me to get my first buy-to-let, and I didn't need to live in it. That was the handy thing. I was in the Navy. I didn't need to live in that property that I bought. I was living on a land base, and then subsequently Her Majesty's Grey War canoes. So that enabled me to not live in these properties, so I could rent them and then, maybe pull some capital out, whatever, and then, jump again. And I think people get so stuck in knowing what to do. Now, my first property, I'm a big time refurber. I love to pull properties to pieces and put them back together again, because that helps me to add value. Okay. After the 2008 crash, I was sat down by Mortgage Express, who I've got about 12 mortgages with, and she was saying, you're going to have to remortgage away, you're going to have to do this and that and the other. And I just said, no, I'm cool, thanks. I'm stopping where I'm at. I never get flustered in times of, COVID or, recession 2008. I'm a pretty calm customer. And she said, well, a lot of people are, going to be losing their properties and this. And I was like, well, interest rates have come down. I mean, when I was building my industrial units in 2008, I mean, what a time to start building industrial units in 2008, just as the crash happened. Your portal frames are going up in the piece of land, and you feel like a property developer, and the next thing, big banks are going bust, and you're thinking, oh shit, what have I done here? Have I jeopardized everything I've done up until this point? Is everything now going to come clanging around my ears? But I thought, dig in. I've always got through any particular scenario I've ever ended up in. I've always got myself out of it. Generally by remaining calm and carrying on. So when that crash happened, interest rates started flying down. Now, funnily enough, just as I was building those industrial units, I'd set myself a goal to increase my revenue by £10,000 a month. And quite bizarrely, as I was building some industrial units, paying the builder the bank's money of between 50 and 150 grand a month for neck end of 7 months. That was a scary time. Interest rates started coming flying down. My business partner, Adam, came out of nowhere with money to spend, wanting to build a portfolio. And, other investors that I knew were coming out of the woodwork with like 100,000 quid. So not only did, so I feel a little bit responsible for the first recession. I feel as if I'd set that goal to increase my cash flow by £10,000 a month. And here it is out of nowhere, interest rates drop into there. So it was like, I felt like a bit of a fluke, really. In fact, just before COVID, I'd set myself a similar target to reduce costs and increase turnover, and that happened again. So, but that's not my fault. Okay, so this book, The Midas Method, I bought a book called Four Wheels to a Fortune when I was dealing in cars after I'd left school. I wasn't the sharpest sharpest tool in the bag at school, and I felt like I needed to prove myself. I always had some sort of side hustle going on, and I used to buy and sell cars from auction. Four Wheels to a Fortune was the book that I bought, which is very similar to the Midas Method book, which you see there, but just red in colour. Now, of course, direct marketing, I bought that book, and then an advert for that book comes through the post. And it was basically, I'm going to talk about this book in a roundabout way, but I know that so many people are just so addicted to buying books that I know so many of you will buy that book, and so many of you have bought that book. Now, I bought tons off eBay for about £3.50, and I've just been sending them out to all and sundry and what have you. And I think there's actually now a little bit of a scarcity, and people are now paying up to £20 for the book. Now, I'll fully absolve Rob of anything here. I actually have a PDF of this book where people are like, do you know, I've been trying to get hold of this book. And I'll send you a PDF of that book as long as you buy the book. Now, I'm not on commission. I've actually contacted a guy who's an agent for that book to say, look, hey, you know, if you've noticed that your sales have gone up lately, that's because of me. Do you want to give me an agency? Yeah, I'm not bothered. I just want people to buy the book and to sort of inwardly, as my English teacher used to say, read and inwardly digest, because it absolutely set me on the right path, as it were. And I started setting goals. You can go straight to chapter 9 of that book. Now, so many self-help books, they'll tell you all sorts of good stuff, but they don't actually tell you how to set a goal. Okay? Chapter 9 of that book says this is how you do it. Up till chapter 9, it's explaining, you know, why you might do yourself down, why you might have negative thoughts, why this happens, why that happens. It's a brilliant book. Everyone that I've recommended the book, and I've done a review actually. If you look on the Property Thing group, I did a post called Reasons to be Cheerful Part 1, and it's a very long post, of course, but it explains a little bit about the subconscious mind and why it can try and trip you up, why it tries to keep you between the lines, etc., etc. But that book gave me the confidence. I could go into any bank, I could ask any person for anything. It just gave me that confidence. Okay? And serendipity can be created. And what serendipity is when you start to really believe in yourself, when you really start to set your goals and visualize, you have to visualize those goals coming true. Okay, you've got to visualize the path in front of you and imagine those things happening to you. Now, you don't actually have to see that in front of your eyes. It's just a feeling. It's just you get your subconscious mind used to the feeling of achievement in the direction that you want to go in. And what happens when you start setting goals? Nothing might happen for 2 or 3 weeks, but then you notice these certain serendipitous actions occurring to you. You start to line your ducks up in the right order better. You start to realize that things are happening to you because of the fact that you have set those goals. Right? It's really, really interesting, and I must impress upon you to get this book. I mean, we'll sort this PDF thing out later.
Carry on, Paul.
Right, why has that happened? Right,
there was just a bit of background noise. I've just got rid of it.
All right. Sorry, my computer's just running a bit slow. It's gone back over.
We're just back on the Money Musketeers slide now.
Yeah, no worries. So, oh, dear me.
So there's a bit of chat about it being available. The book's not on Audible, but it is available on Kindle. Free on Kindle Unlimited as well. And there is a Kindle app for things like the iPhone. So even if you don't have a physical Kindle, you can get it via an app. So hopefully that's at least better than nothing if it's not available on paper.
Right. I don't know why. I'm having to right click and do it now. Okay. So compounding. Just this is as I see it and as it's kind of happened to me. All right. So for the first few years, yeah, look, you know, a lot of this is kind of tongue in cheek, and, you know, I haven't got exact facts and figures on values and, you know, timescales and stuff like that. But basically, so many people start with the basic buy-to-let. Okay. So many people come to me now, me knowing what I know now, buy-to-lets, why did I bother with 45 of them before? I mean, it actually took me to get to 35 buy-to-lets before I even took the jump into full-time property. Kind of just the way it happened, but because I was serially refurbing, I was spending so much money on property, I needed my wages in order to be able to, you know, I was sometimes living off borrowed money, as it were, you know, remortgage money. When you're buying, I mean, I went for a 3-year period buying like literally 10 houses a year, and sometimes having 6 and 7 properties. A lot of these were knackers as well. You know, they weren't houses that were ready to rent. These were houses that needed refurbing. How I fitted it all in, I don't know. But I just cracked on and got it done anyway. I had some decent lads on for me as well, I suppose. But yeah. So you spend such a lot of time building up a buy-to-let portfolio, and to me, they're really slow. Now, I'm happy to have the argument with anyone, and I do see the upsides of them. They've formed the backbone of my business, but really, I wish I hadn't spent so long doing them. HMOs, so I now have, over the last few years, I've gone back into my portfolio and Adam's portfolio, and we've now got 20 HMOs between us. And that has increased cash flow massively. They're not that much more hassle than a buy-to-let. And I mean, 18 of those properties were just your run-of-the-mill buy-to-lets that we turned into, some 3-bed, which I wouldn't now bother with, a lot of 4-bed, and a few 5-bed, and a 6 and 2 7-beds. And they're really great, and I really like that part of my portfolio. I've got 20 HMOs, but only 3 SAs, so that shows you the difference that I feel about the 2 different strategies. I've actually got more SAs coming up in the future. There you go. Right, let's see if this moves on.
Paul,
yeah.
Just while you're talking about HMOs, maybe actually I in the past have done a battle of the strategies. I was buy-to-lets versus someone else was HMOs. Maybe we could do that another time. That was great fun.
Oh yeah.
We took a vote from the audience at the beginning, then battled, and then took a vote at the end.
Who won?
Maybe I won. Buy-to-lets won.
Oh really?
I think the audience was probably on my side at the beginning, to be fair, but I did increase my vote share. But anyway, that's for another time. Christina Christina's always interested in HMOs. She's asked on the chat. I've been told that almost everywhere is saturated with HMOs. Do you have any recommendations where I might be able to invest into a property that I could turn into an HMO?
Now, I've got the answers to this question because we're on the same mentoring group, and she was looking in Derby. And I think I felt like I'd dispelled some myths to you, Christina, and I know we'll end up having a chat tomorrow because that month's come around quickly, hasn't it? So yeah, we'll be on the same Zoom call tomorrow, and this is a conversation that we'll no doubt have. I dispel so many myths. It's sometimes hard to dispel myths unless you're one-to-one with someone, because I like to get my spare room app on my phone and go, okay, what area were you thinking about that HMO doesn't work? Oh, well, so-and-so, Cleetham. All right, we'll bring up Cleetham. I have a look at the, I don't even know if that actually exists or if it's a small pit village somewhere, but we bring up whatever town. We have a look at which people are looking for HMOs and which landlords are renting HMOs. The best thing to do is just to get the spare room app and just pose as a tenant and just type in all of the different areas around the country, that you're thinking of. Now, I think you were looking in Derby, and my argument was you were worried about COVID, Christina. And my argument is, look, if you're gonna buy a 3-bed property for 75 grand and turn it into a 4-bed property, or even a 5-bed property, depending on how much you want to spend on it and whether you want to get into licensing above 4-bed. If you then increase the value of that by 30 grand by spending 20 grand on it, yeah, you might have only made 10 grand. But the reason why people do HMOs is to rent them out long term. It's about returns, and it's about owning it for a period of time. It's about holding it. I mean, if you were going to be flipping properties, you wouldn't be flipping them into HMOs, because there's only a very small amount of people that would actually want to buy HMOs finished, whereas lots of people want to buy, houses that you flipped. So I wouldn't worry too much about, if you were doing your strategy and prices came down by 10%, well, it's going to come back up again eventually anyway, isn't it? We haven't had capital appreciation for 15 years. We've had the last 3 Savills reports. I mean, I'm talking about the Northeast now. The last 3 or 4 Savills reports have stated that, pre-COVID, of course, that we were going to get a 19% bounce in prices in the Northeast. Now, to me, that's great. You know, I've got quite a few properties, and if my portfolio goes up by 19%, then happy days. I'm not that bothered about it because I'm not going to sell any properties to get that 19% out. It just means that my LTVs look better, and it's better for when it comes to succession planning and selling my properties to my children, for example, which will happen. But to me, it's a case of looking on Spare Room and finding out what's to let and what and how many people are actually looking for properties to rent on an HMO basis. Having a look at the type of quality of those people, if you like, and just getting a feel for that particular area. Okay. And you could always go to networking events around that area. If you're going to make an area your area, you better get that area under your skin, or get under the skin of that area and get to know it, really. Get to know other landlords. I mean, I think you were probably looking for a JV, Christina. So you've got a whole host of things to do there. You know, it's that's exciting. So yeah, good luck with that. Did that answer the question?
Thanks, Paul. That's great. Yeah.
No worries. Okay.
So, I'm conscious you've got lots of very good slides.
Yeah.
Get back to them.
There's 27 things on the chat. Yeah, so commercial conversions, networking, relationships, investors. So you can see my curve started to really fly up here with the amount of people that you know, I got to know, the amount of information that was coming my way, better and bigger deals. And then I started studying commercial conversions. I went on the course and then ended up on the mentoring, which you were one of the mentors, Rob. And you know, now I can just see that, like, I just wouldn't go back to buy-to-lets. I've done a couple in the last 2 years, which were just completely cheap. And the lad who works for me, Lewis Blakelock, I'm doing one with him at the moment to get him on the ladder, but we'll soon be looking at smaller commercial conversions, because I just feel as if the returns aren't there. In the Northeast, maybe, you know, to rent a house for 450 quid a month, right? So I'm just going to fly through this because I'm willing to talk a bit more about the book at the end and what it actually does for you setting goals. But a lot of people are into this mindset thing now. A lot of people just, if I've got a shelf full of books, people buy books. People want to know which, you know, one of the questions that always gets asked to me is, which books do you read? Which books would you recommend? It's like, I recommend buying houses and smashing them to pieces, and then like maybe reading a book on a night, 10 minutes before you go to bed. You know, I recommend actually getting onto the coalface and doing stuff. And I recommend the Midas method. I recommend that, yeah, you know, number 6 here said, those who don't read have no advantage of those who can't read. But so many people read a book, and then they read the next book, they read the next book, and then they read the next book. It's like chewing food and then spitting it out in the bin, you know, putting it back on the shelf. What you need to do with these books is you need to read them, you need to write in them, you need to bend the pages over, you need to review it at the end, and you need to show yourself how you're going to manifest the learnings of that book into your life. Because if you don't, you're not taking on the nutrition of that book. You're not taking on the nutrients into your actual being. Okay, so just some sayings that I live my life by here. In every adversity lies the seed of a greater benefit. So many times that I have fallen in a bucket of shit, and through guile, hard work, I've ended up coming up smelling the roses. My dad says, "You fall in a bucket of shit, lad, come up smelling the roses." Well, that's because of graft. Okay. Success is a journey, not a destination. You know, you've got to keep your eyes on your own road. You know, not looking at other people too much, at their journeys, of what they're doing. I always say keep your eyes on the road. Look in your wing mirror. Look in your wing mirrors every now and again. Look in your rearview mirror. Okay, but keep your eyes. 99% of the time, your eyes are on your own road, and you've also got to sort of stop and smell the flowers as well. I mean, for all I do work insane hours. I do have a lot of great stuff going on in my life. I do snowboard quite a lot. I do, you know, hike quite a lot. I've got quite a few good hobbies going on, and I've got great plans for, you know, my vision board here has fantastic things on it. Like, I like to snowboard from camper vans, and I want to build a nice house and do a lot more hiking and stuff like that sort of thing. Happy with that. Right. So, Shybane's getting out. I think I've probably got most of the opportunities that I've ever got through being a bit of a cheeky bugger. If you don't know where you are going, any road will get you there. Use a mental GPS, as in set goals, visualize. Chapter 9. An idiot with a plan can beat a genius without one. How true. Those who don't read have no advantage of those who can't read. The Midas method is like how to cook an egg, you know? Is it Delia Smith? It's the basics. It's absolutely all you need. Any book after that is, you can add little bits to it, okay? You can add little bits of it. I'm not saying, you know, ignore every other book. There's some fantastic books out there. Self-help books, basically, are the same bag of ingredients that the authors get from the supermarket of self-help, and they add their own spices and they bake the cake their own certain way, okay? And their cakes do taste fantastic. You know, some great books out there written with great passion by some fantastic authors. And you can, if you've got yourself a base goal-setting scenario, you can then add other bits from other books as you think that's actually relevant to me, and I think I can add this onto this particular system. Or if you've got a favourite book and it's working for you at the moment, then by all means, take other bits out of other books and make that part of your constitution of self-help. So if you point the finger of blame, 3 fingers point back at yourself. Now, Paul Smith from Blue Oak's a good friend of mine. When I did this the other day on a chat, he said, oh, well, you point the finger of blame, 3 fingers point back at yourself. He said, I've heard you saying that for about a year and I didn't know what the hell you were talking about. Right, I see these fingers point back at yourself. Right, service to others is the rent we pay for our time on earth. Okay. Now, when I visualize my goals, I end it by, basically it's just a case of sitting and relaxing. I've got little goals here, kept in a freezer bag. Yeah, that's them, just little cards, and they're all written down. And then I sit and visualize those for 15 minutes on the morning and 15 minutes on the evening, and that's all I need. And in that visualization, I can go on all sorts of crazy trips around the world and, you know, imagining myself doing all sorts of fantastic things and knowing that that will come true for me. Okay, imagine strongly. Ignore crabs in a bucket. Crabs in a bucket syndrome is where you start to elevate yourselves above your contemporaries, your friends, your family, and people say, stop, oh, you know, you're doing too much of this, you're working yourself into an early grave. They'll find, you know, ways of trying to effectively put your journey down. That's called crabs in a bucket. If you put a load of crabs in a bucket and one crab tries to climb out, the other crabs will drag it back in, okay? Keep humble. Let your success be your noise. Visualization, meditation, the difference. Visualization is, when I'm visualizing, I have my eyes closed and I'm reading my goals, and then I've got to open my eyes to go down to the next goal and then visualize that goal, okay? So that's structured. Meditation is like freestyle visualization, where you just let your mind take you wherever, okay? And there's some fantastic ways of doing that. I've got some tape programs by, God, how old am I? You know, like digital programs by Joe Dispenza, and they're actually fantastic, really good for relaxation. Okay, I'm gonna have to move that. Don't give to receive, okay? Don't be an Indian giver, as they're called. You can, you know, I've got massive sonar, radar, sensing devices for those kinds of people who are just complete takers, all right? And they don't get on so good in the Property Thing group. In Property Thing group, it's nice to be a part of such a fantastic group of people who are just complete givers. Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's conflicts of interest, people looking at the same deal, whatever. It is what it is. But, you know, to be part of a group of people who meet, have a few beers, bit of a curry afterwards, we listen to some great speakers, and that's just a fantastic thing. And to be in business with people like that, to have JV partners like that, to work with investors like that. And by the way, when investors approach me, it's crazy. Sometimes I get approached by investors who want to invest with me, but if I don't get on with them, if there's not a business friendship to be had, it's kind of not going to happen. And, you know, I can put them in contact with someone else. So I just think that's kind of not going to happen, that. Okay? Project yourself from within. Chat with yourself. I chat with myself a lot. I brainstorm a lot of problems. I'm very much a right brain thinker, which sometimes I have challenges with technology, as you've seen. I'm very much right brain, and I like other people to do the left brain stuff for me a lot. Okay, Routine, compartmentalize your time. That's actually a tip that Mary Poppins Karen gave me when I had a one-to-one with her on my mentoring about compartmentalization. She may not remember, but I do. Do what you may not like today so you can do what others can't tomorrow. Okay, are there any questions at this point? I feel like sometimes on these webinars you feel like you're just rambling into that. I can see your face and a couple of others.
No, we've had loads of questions, but I'm relaying the ones that are kind of property specific to you.
Okay,
everybody wants recordings and stuff of so they can go back over everything you're saying. But carry on, don't worry.
Okay, so we've got a lot of people get hooked up and caught up on having downsides, and they tend to concentrate on that. And some of that is the subconscious keeping us between the lines, which it feels as if it needs to keep us in order for us to survive. All right. We have within our heads a fantastic brain. It's the same make and model as Einstein's. If you read that post, Reasons to be Cheerful, Part 1, I explained a lot about this. But basically, I always say, in every adversity lies the seed of a greater benefit. Use your downsides to be your upsides by leveraging them. So people might say, I've just put a couple of little scenarios here that people might give themselves excuses of why not to do stuff. Okay, my thoughts are erratic. I've got the most erratic, distracted thought pattern in the whole wide world, but I absolutely love it because it means I can brainstorm out problems. I'm thinking about things all the time, and I've got a brilliant kind of rapport with myself over chatting on with myself. My missus will say to me, Paul, who were you chatting to down? Who was that Scottish fella you were chatting to downstairs? I was like, oh, that was me. Sometimes I talk to myself in different languages, etc. Just thrashing out a problem or just generally talking to myself. It's cool, and I find that amusing. So, people say I'm no good at numbers. Okay, great JV with a spec neck. Who loves numbers, and together I feel as if two people can do the work of three people. Or 3 times the amount of work that one person can do. So, JVs, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. I'm not sure when to move to the next stage. Well, gather all the info, live and breathe it, own the challenge, trust your gut, as long as your gut is a boss and it won't let you down. Okay? I'm shy, I'll be no good at networking. People in property are just friends you just haven't met yet. Okay, that's one of my things. These networking events, people are scared of networking events. I hear it around the mentoring table. I hear it in all walks of property life, and it's just something that I can't get my head around because the networking events, Rob. I mean, you had the biggest networking event in the country at one point, didn't you?
Briefly, yeah. Great fun. Everyone loved it.
It's absolutely brilliant. So look, if some of you might not know who Alex Honnold is, but he's the absolute nutter that free soloed El Capitan. And I've stood at the bottom of El Capitan and looked up it and thought, how the hell did he just climb up that amount of granite? It's almost vertical.
The film is called Free Solo, and it's absolutely phenomenal. I think it's Netflix.
Please watch that film, everyone. It's absolutely nuts. If Alex Honnold can free solo El Capitan, you can do 20 seconds chat about yourself at a networking event.
Brilliant. Well done, Paul. That's great. That's great. It's really good.
Oh my God. Where's that picture come from? Right. Okay. That wasn't on there when I last checked this chat. Fair enough. Well, that's me and Boise anyway from the property thing. We've just
trying to look taller than him.
Hey?
You trying to look taller?
Well, he's got my hat on. I'm holding the curry takeout. We always go for a curry. It doesn't matter which networking event we go to, we always go for a curry afterwards. It's absolutely, and we take lots of people with us and have some really good crack in those curry houses as well. So, at networking events, you create social synapses. Like the synapses in the brain are what fires, and you can create those synapses to create your thoughts and memories. Okay, there's a disclaimer in my post about Reasons to be Cheerful, Part 1. I'm no psychologist or brain expert. I know a little bit about the layman's terms for it all. But you really do create these social synapses where other people become not only, do you get them as part of your network, you effectively get their network as part of your network as well. Because if you're a nice enough guy that they would like to help you, if you've got a problem, they'll put you onto someone that they know. We've got some fantastic dudes, and I'm looking at him right now. Harry Hill, Lucky Likey Insurance Jeremy, he's the nicest, most resourceful, knowing of all people fellas in the whole wide world. And we've got tons of guys like him willing to help each other. So people that say, oh, I don't like networking events, or I don't feel right going to them, it's just crazy, because there's just such a fantastic resource there. Social media is one thing, but networking is absolutely another, and it's just great. So if you are having problems at a networking event, or talking to anyone in particular, okay, 3 words which were taught to me a long time ago, an absolute icebreaker: never fail. What's your story? You're talking to someone and you hit a silence. So what's your story then? And that has created so much, being able to ask questions and just be right with people and just be interested in their journey. Another fantastic question is, you're at a property event, you want to find a bit out about someone. You get these people saying, how many properties have you got, mate? Well, that's not the way to go about it. Just a way to get people talking about their property journey is by saying, so where are you up to on your property journey then? What you on with at the moment? How are you finding, do you like buy-to-lets? Is HMOs your thing? What are you here for then? Who are you hoping to meet? I have a mandatory, and me and Boise at the property thing have a mandatory creeping circle of death. Okay. And it's basically, it's not like a pin or a PPN where someone gets the choice of whether to stand up for 20 seconds. You have to stand up for 20 seconds and say a little bit on yourself. And it's absolutely paramount. We call it the creeping circle of death, obviously massively tongue-in-cheek. Nobody seems to mind it. Everyone gets up and says 20 seconds. Now that creates a fantastic, right, actually, I think, well, if you're doing that in Westerham, and I know he knows someone that's over that neck of the woods, they might not know to make the connection between themselves, but you know to make the connection between themselves. There's all sorts of stuff like that goes on. It's brilliant. Okay, and then we have a few sherbets, a little bit of a curry, like I said. Okay. So we end up standing on the shoulders of giants. Okay, I'll put that in there. Right, looking outside for all the answers. Stop looking outside for all the answers, rather. Believe in yourself and you will find your own answers within you. Set goals and visualize them. Okay, you must visualize them. Okay, this life. Start with the end in mind. What is the end? Brainstorm that out with yourself. Actually find out what the end of your journey looks like. Know what the end of your journey looks like, because there's no point in setting off on a journey if you haven't got that GPS mapped in to where you're actually going to. If you don't know where you're going, I've got on here probably a little bit later on, it's number 4. You've heard the expression, dance like nobody's watching. Well, set goals like nobody can hold you back, okay? Don't worry about the fact that, well, that sounds a little bit too much. Well, I don't think I can achieve that. You need to get over that. You need to achieve what you want to achieve. You've got the same brain in your head as Albert Einstein, as all the greats. We've got the same make and model, okay? You just have to learn how to use it. It will come to you if you teach yourself how to use your brain as you're going on through life, okay? It's not hard, you get to choose. So set goals like nobody can hold you back, okay? What do you really want though? I've got, a lot of people, a lot of young lads and lasses starting off in property feel as if they want to be, well, back in the day it was always the thing to be a millionaire, but sometimes to get, more money, more houses, more property, it just creates more problems. My brother-in-law is a fantastic guy, Mark, and he up until lately, he owned a £1,500 caravan. And he used to sit on a site in his chair with his barbecue next to him, and he said, all these buggers with the 30 grand caravans, he said, nobody's having any more fun than me. And he's just that kind of guy. He's a brilliant guy. He's a policeman. He looks after his money fantastically. We go snowboarding 3 times a year. We have fantastic family holidays. He just absolutely stretches it and makes it last. He wanted to get into property at one point, but he's like, do you know what? I'm just happy with my life as it is. That's great. I've got another friend who sold his company out for 450 grand about 10 years ago. I wish he'd put it into HMOs actually, because he would have got a good return, but he's actually just had it in a high interest account. And he has So it's not a vast amount of money to effectively retire on. Retired at 45. He snowboards all winter and he kite surfs all summer. And that's all he does. Absolutely brilliant life he has. You don't need millions and millions and millions of pounds. Okay. So don't be concerned with the how. All right. You've just got to be concerned with setting your goal where you want it to be. Okay. Don't worry too much about the how. Yeah. People say, what is your why? But like, listen, you don't have to ask how. Your subconscious, when you get it on side, will help you to line all of your ducks up in the right order in order to help you to achieve your goals. Okay. We'll come on a journey with you. Okay, so my imminent projects coming up, as well as my, my HMOs and all the other stuff I've got going on. This is what I've got going forward. Now, I had 3 or 4 big jobs about to just pre-COVID lined up with big investors. Over the last couple of years, I've come to realize that I need to leverage my skills, leverage my knowledge, and other people's skills and knowledge in order to do the bigger stuff, the commercial conversions, hence being on the course, hence being on the mentor. It's because that's what I want to do. That's where I see myself being able to do an apartment block full of maybe 20-bed apartment, 21-bed apartments, that kind of thing. All right. But again, to hold. So at the moment with Adam, I've got Vane Terrace, 12-bed co-living, which I'll show you a picture of in a bit. 8-bed ensuite HMO. We've actually got an 8-bed student accommodation through at Hartlepool to do as well. Now, actually, as COVID hit, these 3 with Adam and I, they're funded by us. But the other ones that I had going on, 3 investors lined up to do 3 fantastic projects. Every single one of them, bosh. As soon as that COVID hit, it was like, no, sorry, we're waiting 6 months or longer. We've lost a lot of money on the stock market. We're holding back, thank you very much. And the other couple of investors that I've got are very, very cautious at the moment, so they need to see absolute facts and figures. I find that when you're getting into these bigger projects, that my skill is being able to walk into a property and kind of going, well, I think we could do this with it, or we could do that with it, or maybe we could do that. And if we can take the roof off and go another floor, fine. You can't give those figures to the investor before you've actually got planning, before you know what, even with just a pre-app, you need to know what you can build in there before you can actually give someone figures. So I'm finding at the moment it's a little bit chicken and egg. Investors want exact figures before they'll look to invest, but I can't give them exact figures until it's gone through planning. So I'm effectively taking risks on exchange with delayed completions on buildings that I know will work, and then they can jump in later when I've got planning permission. But then, do I charge them planning gain? Will they come on when it's got planning gain? Okay, so we've got 30-bed co-living, co-working environment that I've got going on. Co-living in 1-bed SA apartment. And those are the 3 that I've already mentioned. 15 to 18-bed co-living. Now, so this is just the type of project that I've got going on, which is a little bit of a step up from what I've been doing in the past. This is going to be a 12-bed HMO. It's got next doors has got this huge extension. So I'm basically knocking the smaller extension down, which there isn't a picture of here, and building this big extension out the back. Not the best looking thing in the world. It's canny, but it's getting redesigned that. It's not actually overlooked by anything. So in that property, it's gone from 135 grand property. We'll spend probably around 225,000, I'm thinking, on that one, and that will turn that into a 12-bed HMO, which will bring in about 50 grand a year, near the hospital. Good little return on that. Okay, this is for microservice apartments because it was a commercial building. Are we all right, by the way, for time? I'm obviously.
So we've been after 8, we've got an hour and 10. It's great. I think brilliant timing for some specific examples.
Right,
yeah.
great stuff.
Another 10, 15, and then let's.
Okay, so this is Arden Street, which is going to be 4. Oh, why does that just jump there? So this is an ex-pub, and then it was offices. It's had the chimneys taken off it, which I'll be building back on, shot blasting the building, returning it to its former glory, and putting 4 microservice apartments in there. Now, the reason why they're microservice apartments is they're only 24 square meters, so they're less than national space standards. So I wouldn't ever be able to sell them off as separate units. So that's and they should be quite good. I should be able to charge £40-50 a night per one. easy little refurb. Guy had bought it for 100 grand. I tried to buy it a few years ago for 100 grand. Another guy bought it. He actually spent 35 grand on it, ran out of money, and then he sold it for me for 80. We're actually good pals now. He's a real good guy. I felt bad.
He bought it for 100. He spent 35 on it, and then he sold it for 80.
Yeah, his ex-wife had absolutely pinned him. Bless him. This is avert your eyes away from here over to this. We lovingly nicknamed the Bollock. Okay, that's a shocking looking building in Darlington, which we'd like to do something a bit more contemporary with. We've toyed with the idea of knocking it down. There's actually a video on the Property Thing group, which I've done a walk around of that if you go on there. 110 grand up north, but it's a hell of a lump of a building, but it will cost quite a lot to get a few rooms in there. We'll probably go for 14. I'm going co-living. Now, it is actually quite close to the Darlington town centre, so we don't need a lot of parking with that. So that will be going in for planning any day now. This is a big one opposite the theatre, which I've got on a PLO. 300 grand in. It's got lapsed planning permission for this. I won't call it a monstrosity. It's not a bad looking thing, but it's just not as I would want it. I'd like to build something nice and contemporary, something that will complement the existing beautiful facades rather than try and match it. All right. And again, until I know exactly what I'm doing with that building, I've got a fantastic architect going to be doing the work on that for me, who I've approached from down south. Okay, so coronavirus. Do you want to ask me anything just now, Rob, or should I just, this is, I think, my last slide.
No, perfect timing. Yeah, there's lots of active chat about good books following on from all of your mindset stuff, which is great.
Right, okay. I'll rattle through this slide, if you like, and then we'll get on to a couple of 3D walkarounds and then Q&A. Right? So, in COVID, what has happened to us? Well, I've been down in London not so long ago, researching co-living environments and co-working environments. And I'm a little bit scared by purely commercial, although we do have industrial units and they rent out very well. The yields are fairly low, rental yields, and they're just a bit of a long, slow burner. The residential cash flow from, the cash flow from residential HMOs has been good. I did fancy doing some co-working environments, but now it looks like I'll probably do co-working environments intrinsically, like as a part of the fact that you're living in a co-living environment, okay? And what scared me off that, finally, is I would be in competition with a huge office block that's just been built in Darlington, which is going to be smashing a load of other smaller serviced offices and various other stuff. But also, when COVID occurred, what happened to working, what happened to office spaces? The whole world's just completely changed. So that scared me off the co-working, so I'm concentrating on the co-living. With Darlington, we've been very lucky because Amazon's come to town. And as COVID struck, I had 5 rooms out of 80 HMO rooms, which is fairly unheard of for me. But these 5 rooms have come up just through people giving notice and what have you. And it was my job to get those rooms filled. COVID occurred, and basically about another 5 or 6 people said that they were going to be leaving. Okay. Then I worked very hard on spare room marketing, and also did some bandit boards for NHS key workers, that kind of thing. Got all of my rooms filled, very, very, not very far into, lockdown, and everyone seemed happy bunnies. Yeah, interest rate drop. That was a big old, a nice slap in the face with a wet fish. That was great. 3 investors pulled back on projects, kind of fine, because the vendors are happy to go, into a holding pattern as well. So we're pretty cool with all that. So I will stop that share there.
So Paul,
yeah,
one more. You've got one more. Sorry, go on. I was going to.
Go on. So I'm just going to rattle through these. Life can be one big contradiction. Knowledge is like a pension. You just got to keep adding to it from an early age as you possibly can, and it compounds. Eat an elephant one bite at a time, but swallow a frog whole every day. Knowledge is power. Be motivated, network like hell, be passionate, be a good all-rounder. Don't worry. A pound of worry bought an ounce of nothing. Be a control freak. Take all opportunities. Know your strengths and weaknesses. Learn the art of the brainstorm. Never tell yourself you can't do it. Farm out your weaknesses and JV them. Info JV as much as you possibly can. Be the shepherd. Use common sense and gut feeling. Take notes. Keep them organised and keep your eyes on the prize. I think that is me. Yes, it is.
Great. Thank you, Paul. That was awesome. And one of the questions I wrote down that I wanted to ask was around what was exciting you right now, and I think you've given us a few examples around co-living.
Yeah.
For those of us who aren't so initiated in HMOs or the co-living world, can you just talk a little bit about what makes something in your eyes co-living?
Right. Okay. So people have this general opinion, which purists balk at, that it's just basically a bigger, posher HMO. But say again, sorry?
We're a bigger HMO with more rooms. This is exactly what I was thinking of.
Well, it's
not that.
I mean, a true co-living environment. So for Darlington not being a massive place and not being as diverse as a city, I've got to effectively what I call microize everything. That's why I'm doing micro SA because I think there's a huge gap between HMO and SA. Where people are renting SA off me at £75 a night, when really they could be paying £45 a night and have a beautiful little space, which is actually only £10 more than a guest house. So I'll probably get longer lets out of those. So that's my thinking with that. The co-living to me it's like an HMO, yes, but with much bigger communal spaces that you can actually sit on a laptop with 3 or 4 or 5 other people at once. Like cinema rooms, and I mean, co-living in the city.
With shared amenities on steroids.
Yeah, so I'm interested in having a look at a couple of different models, actually, from what I've researched from down in London. I went to the co-living environment, which is the one in Canary Wharf called The Collective, and that was 705 16 square metre rooms at £1,500 a month. Well, but that had gyms, swimming pools, restaurants, the full thing. Absolutely amazing. So if I can get that down into a 20, 25, 30 bed in Darlington, but with fantastic communal facilities and a real sense of community, rather than just like living in an HMO. I mean, I've got 5-bed HMOs without a communal room. And the good places for people to live, but I just want to take it that one step further,
Okay, cool. That's really interesting. Thank you. There's a few questions I've just had to scroll up to find that I might have been a little late on that. One from Margaret. How do you structure the JV for Arden Street, please? I presume that's one of your specific projects that she knows about.
How did I structure a JV?
How would you structure the JV for Arden Street?
Well, that's just one I'm doing by myself.
Okay.
I'm not actually JVing with anyone on that one.
Okay, and then a question from Alan. Where are you finding your investors currently? And what are you doing to reassure them about parting with their money?
Well, basically, with all the reassurance in the world, you read the Financial Times and having lost a couple of £1 million on the stock market, it's their choice. Investors up to now, I've got a portfolio that's absolutely full, and nothing's changed. Investors that had lined up to do these bigger projects, it's their choice. I've had Zoom calls, we've had all sorts of meetings and tried to put the mind at rest, but it's a case of, look, we either thieve it or leave it. Now I've got 2 offers in on 2 big properties whereby I don't feel as if I need to go back and get a cheaper price off the vendor. The deal was already going through solicitors, and it didn't feel right to renegotiate. I'd rather stretch that out over a longer period of time and do something that can benefit us both. So I have had to revisit a couple of deals. Actually, one guy's knocked 15 grand off without me barely having to ask him. I just said, look, the investor's getting, he's pulled back and various other, I might have to look at other ways. And he said, well, I'll knock 15,000 quid off. If that makes it any better. I thought, oh, right, okay. So, it is what it is. We'll just see what happens. I've always got a million other things to be cracking on with anyway. So stuff's in a holding pattern, so be it. Did someone say, where did I find my investors from?
No, but that is always a really good question, though.
Okay, I just attract them in, I suppose. It's about this.
Look at you giving yourself a plug for the book again.
Hey, do you know what? If I got £1 for every one of those books, that has probably been sold off me gobbing off about it. I just think it's fantastic. Loads of people will have it, you know. Yeah, nice one, Leon Taylor. Fair play.
Couple other questions. Question from Sarah: how would co-living be categorised by the planners? I think she's asking what youth class is it.
Well, I don't know what youth class it is, but in fact, I don't even think it has. It'll just be HMO. Now, funnily enough, the 12-bed one that I showed you on Vane Terrace, that Adam and I are doing, when I went to have a chat with the planners about that, I always like to chat with the planners. Will say, look, pre-app, you know, they just run down the street shouting pre-app. As soon as you start asking them any sorts of questions on, do you think that pre-app, right? But anyway, I had 4 projects and I absolutely insisted that they had a look at them. They loved the designs that I took down there from the architects, and they said to me, right, this 12-bed HMO, put in for off the record, not off the record, but they said, you know, put in for serviced rooms. And I said, oh, well, what's the difference between, you know, serviced rooms and large HMO? And they were just like, you know, sui generis HMO. So actually it would come under sui generis, wouldn't it? Because it's above 6 beds. So he said, just put an application in as if it was serviced rooms. And I said, well, what do I have to offer for it to be serviced rooms, like a laundry service? And he said, yeah, that'll do, because then we can go easier on you as far as the parking provision's concerned. So I thought, oh, right, is he trying to trick, you know, a little bit suspicious, walked away thinking, is he trying to trip me up on this, you know, everything being separately banded for council tax? And it turned out that the planner was actually doing me a favour.
The guys I know who do a lot of SA, you know, a lot of the short-term stuff that, strictly speaking, that then comes under C1 rather than C3 or any of the HMO categories. I mean, I know the question specifically was co-living, wasn't it? Which is more, your HMOs and your big HMOs, I guess. But I know some of the time you're saying some of the SA stuff is more exciting. And there's a question from Andrew on the SA stuff. And he's really asking, how are you justifying the numbers on SA for Darlington?
Well, we have 3 SA, and I thought they were all going to empty. I had an Indian guy in one of them over for 8 months, and he left after, you know, when COVID happened. He'd been in for 2 months. He said he wasn't going anywhere, and then 24 hours later, he's like, travel ban, mate, sorry, I'm off. And I was like, damn, with about 10 grand's worth of cash flow. And I a little bit knee-jerk reactioned it, thinking, well, you know, make a while it's raining, and let's get someone else in there. Let's call it a mini. So what I was prepared to do is to, again, microize HMO, as it were, and do my essays as mini HMOs. 2 people in sharing, whether that be 2 key workers or whatever. Just do it as a 2-bed house share, maybe get a couple of £100 a week. One of them, the one that emptied, I got 2 brothers sharing. That their dad had cancer. One of them was a doctor. They wanted to self-isolate, so I put them in one of my essays, and the other 2 essays just didn't empty. And it turned out that the contractors that were in there were contractors with Amazon, and Amazon coming to town had just absolutely been an absolute boon at this time for Darlington. So what I was then able to do, with 2 essays full, the other essay, you know, full as a micro HMO, I then had a supported tenancy that came up, which was already fully furnished by myself a couple of years ago. So more Amazon contractors coming to town. I put that into an essay, begged, borrowed and stealed any amount of furniture for the next one that I did, which was just a normal single let that came up just through natural progression. The girl had got herself a council house, and I turned that into an essay just with, you know, furniture from all around my lockups and what have you. And so we got £1,600 a month for each one of those 2 last properties come up. So now I've effectively got 4 essay, 5 essay and one of them not as an essay. So I've ended up with 2 more essay in a time when everyone else is worried about essay. But there you go. Is what it is. So we've been looking at that one.
Cracking on with the questions. Another one from my friend Manny. So he says he's a self-confessed HMO junkie and he's trying to break his habit. And he had 4 buy-to-let. So a man after my own heart with the buy-to-lets. When COVID hit, you said you had 5 empty HMO rooms, and then there were another 5 or 6 that became vacant, and you had to work hard to get them relet, which you did very successfully, back up to 100% occupancy. So the question then is, how did your buy-to-lets do during that time, and how hard did you have to work on them during lockdown?
There's only 5 people in my 135 tenancies who've effectively paid short. The buy-to-lets didn't go anywhere apart from one guy who said he'd left, said he'd been laid off. And I was like, oh, right, well, I don't think that's very fair. I think I'm going to speak to your boss about that. And he went, how do you mean? You can't just ring up and speak to my boss? I said, no, I know him. And he's like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, yeah, I know your boss. I'll have a word with him. What's the crack, laying you off and all that? I said, sure, he's got to pay you. I said, he can't not pay you something. And anyway, it turned out this lad was just trying to have me over a little bit. And his boss was like, yeah, I mean, it's all a bit GDPR, isn't it? But I kind of bluffed him, and he paid half rent for 2 months, and now he's back on full rent, so that's all good. So when it first happened, I was really worried. Yeah, well, not really worried. I sent a message, a long and just a long sort of helpful message, if you like, just saying, I've got your back. Don't worry if you can't pay, just let me know. Information is power. I'll work with you on anything. We'll roll any rent that needs to be short paid up, and you can pay that over a period of time. I had a couple of people saying, oh, well, you'll be getting a mortgage holiday. I mean, this guy that was trying it on, he's like, you'll be getting a mortgage holiday, mate. So, do I not pay my rent now? And I'm like, right, okay, no. Mortgage holiday means I get my mortgage rolled up, mate. So it's not like I'm going to be letting anyone off any rent anytime soon. Everyone else was as sound as a pound. I got a lot of great feedback off the message that I sent out, and everyone who thought they were going to struggle, just let me know. And there was 5 people that paid slightly short, and I said, don't worry about it. A few people had to put housing benefit claims in. I'm like, don't worry about it. It was a good covenant to have those good tenants in. I mean, I moved away from the housing benefit bunch about 10, 12 years ago. I've got very, very few housing benefit tenants. The ones that I have got have been with me for absolute years, and they're brilliant. And I don't mean to generalise about the housing benefit. It's just that all the problems that I got were from housing benefit tenants. Now I've got a great portfolio because I do my houses up nicely. You'll see the standard. I'll show you the standard of the last 2 refurbs that I've done on some of my smaller stuff.
Well, I'm gonna hurry you along. I want to cover just the last questions, and then we'll finish up with your quick little your 3D things. So Sarah's asked, as a follow-up to one of our earlier questions, your co-living rooms have a food prep area then? Kitchen.
This is when I mentioned that there was something that I was going to look into a little bit more closely. It's this food prep area because of separate banding for council tax. Now, I'm going to be putting a big desk area in with granite worktops, a granite desktop, if you like, and there will be room on there for a microwave. If someone wanted to put a microwave in there, I'm not purposefully going to put that microwave in there, but I'm going to provide fantastic living accommodation and also separate bathrooms. I think it's paramount that you actually provide a separate bathroom, so that if the council rock up and say, oh, by the way, yeah, we're going to separately ban this for council tax, and you say, well, hold on a minute, they've only got an ensuite in, they've got no food prep area in, everyone get rid of the microwaves. And they've got a huge kitchen with communal working areas and stuff like that. So no, they're not self-contained apartments. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
great. Question from Zach: what do you do to get those 5 empty HMO rooms filled so quick? I think there was 5, plus another 5 or 6, but
well, I just hustled. It's not often that I get 5 rooms up at once, and I've got 10 adverts on spare room at all times, whether I've got 1 room or whether I've got 3 rooms to rent. I've always got 10 ads on spare room, and I refresh those daily through a piece of software that does it automatically for me. And we just
for those who
I'm not allowed to say, unfortunately. The guy that does it.
Okay, fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, he doesn't do it for smaller landlords, if you like, and he just picks one area, and you are that guy in the area that he does it for. I'll see if maybe he can give me some info on that.
Love it. That's great.
But you can go into your own spare room every morning and just refresh all your adverts. Yeah, that's what I used to do anyway. So yeah, I just hustled basically. I just absolutely hustled it. And funnily enough, again, in every adversity lies the seed of a greater benefit. I ended up Some people had left in April, start of April, but paid a month's rent before they left because they were paid up. And then effectively people that were coming from Amazon were wanting to reserve rooms. So I was effectively getting sometimes 1.5 or double rent in April because I was effectively charging the Amazonians a month or half a month's rent up front. So that worked out brilliantly. So
Great.
yeah, it's been good.
Paul, thank you very much. We could listen to you all night, I think. It would be great to see your 3D Matterport walkarounds. Just while you're lining that up, before you share your screen, we did announce, because we had over 100 tickets sold, that we would give away 3 prizes of 30-minute one-to-one mentoring calls. So Emma, who works with me, has trawled through all the names on the Zoom this evening. The 3 names of the winners are Michael Roberts, Simon Folkes, and Leanne Taylor. So if you guys would like, I'm very happy as a way of trying to say thank you for everybody to join the call, of arranging a one-on-one session for each of you separately with me over the rest of this week or next week sometime. Emma from my office will be in touch to arrange the times for those. Paul, thank you very much. As a final step for us, would you like to show us around one of your 3D walkthroughs to give us an example of the styles?
Okay. Okay, one sec. Just gonna try and move this out of the way. There we go. Okay, so this is a 4-bed HMO that I took from being a tired 3-bed single let. It was only tired because it had been full occupancy by the same person for absolutely years, and we just went in there and smashed it to pieces a little bit and just redecorated it. I say smashed it to pieces, no, we didn't smash it to pieces at all. We just went in there and refurbed it. So before it was like a previous, brown fireplace and bits and bats. We made some wardrobes. So with an HMO, obviously you make the downstairs room into a bedroom. Okay, so this is now the downstairs bedroom. I put divan. I don't normally put divan beds in. I like to put nice framed beds in, but the room size is just a little bit too small for framed beds take up a bit more room. So I said I'd do the full walk around now. Do you know what I did? Let's go upstairs first. I got the Matterport done. I left the bloody toilet seat up, didn't I? And the Matterport guy didn't notice it either. And with my OCD, and he left a towel on the towel rail. It's like, come on. Oh, my lads did. I did. Blame myself. Yeah, so here we've just tickled it up with a bit of shower wall, nice Faro and Bordado colour, a few black powder-coated fittings, paint the radiator black, skirting boards black, literally just a Howden's fire door, which are quite expensive. We actually use normally a flush not a flush fire door. We use a 4-panel smooth fire door now, but we use these Howden's ones because the door frames were odd sizes. Again, 2 divans in there. We actually did this as SA for 3 months, again through the Amazon lot ages ago. A little bit of a desk. This small room here was below 6.51 meters, so we had to nick all of this space off the landing. Okay, so that was a landing cupboard, so we nicked all that, moved the door frame from over there to here, and made this little tiny room just 6.51 meters. Now, it's an absolute travesty for rooms that are 5.5 meters not to be able to be now rented through space standards, because that was a perfectly good little room before that would have done someone for 4 or 5 days a week. These people that just want to come and pay £60 a week to live somewhere. So this is the biggest room, and that's that really. Now, the standard that I normally do stuff to is kind of higher than this, but it was a single let, and it only cost about, I don't know, maybe £4 grand. And these Matterports are really useful. You can't actually put them on spare room, but you can say you've got them. Yeah, communal space doesn't work fantastically well. We made that cupboard over in the corner there. We don't like fridge freezers separately in dining rooms, but it is what it is. Small space, not great having to walk behind the couch.
Do you find people actually use that space?
Yeah.
Even though it's quite small, they use it. Great.
Again, you see, this normally I put, as you'll see next, I normally put granite worktops in kitchens, but this, with it being not a bad house, we just changed the cupboard handles for black, put some fresh stuff in there. We didn't actually change the worktops in this one. A black end panel, painted bits and bobs black. We do black ceilings every now and again as a little bit of a touch, but that kitchen nearly came out. But we needed to change this place out. We needed to get it turned around for these Amazon contractors. So this is a single let that I've just finished. Some of you will laugh, but this cost me 26,000 quid. It actually nearly cost me as much on the refurb. It was probably about a 20 grand refurb. But this place, quite a big extension, This is the kind of standard that, see, I put granite in there. We put nice tiles in there, black edgings. It's like, it might cost me 20% more on a refurb to do this kind of standard. But the reason why I do it is because, I've got a little Mary Poppins tenant in here now. She's been a tenant of mine for a while. She waited for this house while it was coming up. Yeah, I only get 433 a month for it. But it'll just rent out forever and a day. As soon as I bought it, the day I bought it for 26, it got valued at 50. So I pulled a 35 grand mortgage on it. And tickled it up. And forevermore, durable. Use some of my nice dip and strip doors. This is, just very briefly, this is a 3-bed hedge, 3-bed HMO of mine and Adams, which, there we go, I'll just move you there. This is the kind of standard that we like to do stuff to, because it's just never not, can you imagine that, the people see this on Spare Room compared to most of the vanilla stuff that's out there. And they're like that, yeah. Obviously this is dressed. We don't provide teacups and what have you. We do provide cushions. So that's my designer, Tom, and myself. Yeah, so just a little.
Thank you, Paul.
I wouldn't do a 3-bedder now. I wouldn't do any more 3-bedders, but there you go.
Great. Paul, thank you. That's been phenomenal. I'll just check if there are any other questions. No, that's the lot. Does anyone have any other final questions before I close the meeting? Paul, thank you very much. That was phenomenal.
You're all very welcome. Thanks for bearing with me there. It just
barely needed to direct you.
Message me, but,
my one final question that I always ask, hopefully most people know this by now, given what you've been saying. Where can people find out more about you or connect with you? How would they do that?
I don't ever have anything to sell anyone, or not that that's what you're asking. I realise that, but I am just like literally a guy that does a load of networking and stuff like that. You can get me on Facebook at Paul Million, and go to the Property Thing group. There's the Property Thing Facebook page, but the Property Thing group Facebook page is the one to get into. And there's some good posts on there and some good chat, and get joined to that and introduce yourselves and for away. And I'm always here to answer any questions.
Great stuff.
I'm going to have a look at that chat. 99.
Thank you very much, Paul. We've been going, well, I think for you about an hour and a half there. That's picked by your standards, I think. Absolutely fantastic, and a real whistle-stop tour of all sorts of strategies and the importance of mindset. Thank you. That's great. Everybody, thank you very much for coming. We've had the highest attendance of any of our meetings, and we're only 5 in. It feels like that we're still a fledgling meeting, but doing phenomenally on all of the numbers. So thank you very much to everybody for coming. Hopefully you all agree that this evening Paul's provided tremendous value. You also heard from Karen Murray before, my favourite podcaster. Please listen to her podcast. Dan Fitzhenry talking about what the government can provide grants and loans wise. If you need any help navigating any of that, have a chat with Dan. We endeavour at the Property Meetup to provide you with one of these Zoom calls every week. We tend to take a week or so off every month, but we would very much welcome you back next Tuesday for the next meeting. Find us on Facebook at the Property Meetup Facebook page and Facebook group. We'll publish the details always of the next meeting there, as well as sending them out by email. The recording of this conversation will be processed over the next couple of days, and we'll share that. So if there was anything, any of Paul's wisdom or anything from anybody else that you wanted to go over, to pause, to think about, to take some notes, by all means, use the recording for that. It's a really good way to take some time to digest and think about everything that we've heard this evening. And with that, I will say thank you very much. Have a great evening, and I wish you all the success in the rest of your COVID-19 property investing. And I will hopefully see you next time for the property meetup. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank
Fun.
you.
Cheers,
Thank
everyone.
you,
Thanks for
Paul.
listening. Thanks
Thank
for coming.
Thanks so much, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Is that a virtual cuddle?
Yes.
Well done, Paul.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Bye.
See you in a bit.
Thanks.
Well done, sausage.
Cheers, saucisson.
Cheers, mate.
2 people from Darlow won the prize. It was a fix.
Luke.
Thanks.
Cheers, Paul. See you later.
Thanks, guys.
Nice one, Adam.
Bye.
See you in a
Good
bit.
work.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks, Rob.